Right, okay. So let us discuss first and foremost some basic of MS Excel, right? So here, let me show you an example, right? So here, let me say name, right? And let me give marks of two subjects, right? So let it be the first one, let it be ICT, and the next one is going to be commerce marks, right? Then let us have the total and the average. Here let us have the average, right? Right. So I'm going to enter two names, Rahul and Habinesh, the second student, right? Habinesh. And let me enter the ICT marks of Rahul. Rahul's ICT marks is 50. Our commerce marks is 90. And Habinesh one is 40. And Abhinesh's ICT marks is 40 and commerce marks is 80. Right. So to find the total, we know equal sum. Let us enter the formula equal sum. Then B2 is to, right? B2 is to C2. Close bracket, enter. Then I can drag this down. Then I will be getting the Habinesh total marks, right? So here you can see equal sum in the formula bar. You can see equal sum B3 is to C3, right? So that means 40 plus 80, right? So that is going to give you 120. Now let us find the average marks of Rahul. So equal average, open bracket. Let me give the 2 marks. That is the B2 is to C2. Then close the bracket, enter. That is going to be 70. Then I am going to drag this down to find the average marks of Habinesh. So it is going to be 60, right? Where equal average B3 is to C3, right? Done. Now to find the maximum marks, who has scored the maximum marks, right? So we'll imagine we are going to find the maximum marks scored for ICT. So I'm going to say here maximum marks, and let us say, so let us enter the formula equal max. That is going to be B2 is to B3, close the bracket, press enter. So the maximum marks scored for the ICT is 50, right? 50. And once we drag it to the right side, the maximum marks for the commerce is 90. So you can see here the formula in the formula bar equal max C2 is to C3. So out of these two marks, what is the highest marks? So the highest marks for the maximum marks for commerce is 90. So let us find the minimum marks. So minimum marks, right? So here I'm going to enter equal min. Then it's going to be B2 is to B3. B2 is to B3, enter. So the minimum marks scored for ICT is 40. 40 is the minimum mark. So I'm going to drag it to the right side. Then you can see it is 80 and you can see the formula in the formula bar. Once you drag to the right side, that is going to be equal means C2 is to C3. That means simply out of these two, out of that C2 90 and 80, what is the minimum marks? That is going to be 80. So we are done with some basics in MS Excel, right? Now let us discuss row absolute cell reference, right? What is this row absolute cell reference? What is this column absolute cell reference? And what is this row and column absolute cell reference, right? So most of the students have confusion in this. So be with me until the end of the video. So it's going to be clear for you, right? So here, let me erase these things now. And let me erase this as well. Now here we can see two names are there, two students' names. One is Rahul and the other one is Habinesh. Then the ICT marks of Rahul and Habinesh is given, and the commerce marks of Rahul's and Habinesh. So now here let us find the total, right? Let us find the total, right? So simply to find the total, we know equals sum, then I'm going to say B2 is to C2. B2 is to C2, then enter. Now, if I drag this downwards, right? Nice, listen to me. I am going to drag, right? So there is the fill handle, right? So I'm going to drag the fill handle downwards. Now, if I drag it downwards, dear, listen to me. I'm asking a question. If I drag it downwards, will the column letter change? Now here, still we are in the same column. So the column letter doesn't change, right? But what will happen to the row number? If I drag this to downwards, the row number will shift from second to the third. Row number will shift from second to third. But there will be any change in the column letter? No. When we are dragging downwards, there is no any change in the column letter, right? Because we are dragging in the same column. But what will happen? The column letter doesn't change, but what will happen to the row number? It will change from 2 to 3 in this scenario. So let us, because the row column is not changing, as because the column letter doesn't change, we no need to make the column absolute. Now, what is this row absolute cell reference? Row absolute cell reference means you are absolute cell reference, right? So you are not making the row to change, right? The row doesn't change now. You are making the row absolute. So row number doesn't change. So how to do that? Now here we know the column letter doesn't change. So we no need any requirement to enter the there is no any requirement for us to make the column absolute. But let us make the row absolute in this case. So how to do that? So here I can put the first one is going to be this one, right? B2. So I'm going to put the dollar front of what? 2. So before the number only, I should put the dollar symbol. Why? I'm making this row absolute cell reference. If I want to make this column absolute cell reference, then I need to put the dollar front of B. Therefore, the column letter doesn't change. Understand? But in this scenario, I'm going to make this row absolute cell reference. So therefore, I'm going to put the dollar front of the row number, So is to, then here what should we write? So here also I'm going to put the dollar front of the row number. Then I'm going to close the bracket and enter. Then it's going to be 140. It's going to be 140. Now my dear, now just I'm saying equal sum, and I'm saying 50 and 90 here, and here also 140. Now if I drag this downwards, you guys know you will be getting 120 because 40 plus 80 is going to bring you 120, right? You can see now once we drag downwards, look here carefully. So B2 is to C2. Now I told when you are dragging downwards, the column letter doesn't change. Now look here. Here also you have B. Here we have C. Now come to this one, the below one. Here also the column letter is same, right? Column letters are the same. Here you have B and here you have C, right? Because you are dragging it downwards. But here also the same, right? Here also the same. Now, but here, if you notice it carefully, here the column letters are the same, but if you notice here, the row number is 2. Row number is B2 and C2. But as because you drag it downwards, the column letter doesn't change, but the row number has changed from B2 is to B3 and C2 is to C3. So how to notice that? So here you can see that B2 has been changed to B3 and C2 has been changed to C3. There is no any change in the column letter, but the row number has been changed. So what we are doing in this row absolute cell reference, we know when we are dragging downwards, the column letter doesn't change, but the row number changes. Therefore, to overcome that, to make the row absolute, to make it not change, we are making a row absolute cell reference. We are adding the dollar front of the row number. Now, if I drag this, right? Wait, right. Now, if I drag the fill handle downwards, what will happen? What will happen? You can notice that here, what has happened? Now, here also we have the row number as 2, and here also we have the row number as 2. Now, once you drag downwards, as because we have made the row absolute cell reference, once you drag downwards, it is supposed the row number should change if you haven't made any absolute reference cell references. But as because here we have made the row absolute cell reference, right, the row number doesn't change, right? The row number doesn't change, because if you put the dollar front of the row number, it is going to be row absolute cell reference. So row number doesn't change once you drag downwards. Understood? So here also, if you notice here, that is the $2, $2. Here also you can see $2, $2, right? Anyhow, the column letter doesn't change once you drag downwards, right? You are dragging downwards to the same column, D only you are dragging. Therefore, that's the logic, right? Now, one of the student can ask, okay, sir, now you are saying once we drag it downwards, okay, fine. Once we are dragging downwards, you said thus the column letter doesn't change, but the row number changes. What if we drag it to the right side? What if we drag it to the right side? Okay, dear, what will happen if you drag it to the right side? Now, what will happen? Simply, if you haven't made any cell references, right? If you haven't made any cell references, the simple logic what? So let me say equals sum, then B2 is to C2, right? B2 is to C2, sorry, B2 is to C2, then close the bracket, enter, right? So if you are dragging it to the right side, what will happen? Now you are dragging to the right side means it is shifting from D to E, right? So the column letter is going to change. In that scenario, the column letter is going to change, but the row number, will the row number change? No, why? When you are dragging to the right side, you are dragging in the same row. Once you are dragging, now for an example here, you have the D2, you are dragging this to the right side, to here. So once you are dragging it to the right side, you are dragging it in the same row number. Therefore, the row number doesn't change. But as because you are dragging it to the right side from D to E, right? So the column letter is supposed to change, but the row number is not going to change. Now here, my dear, listen carefully. Now here it is B2 is to C2. Right now, I told that row number doesn't change once you are dragging it to the right side, right? But the column letter changes. Therefore, the B2 will change to what? B2 will change to C2 and C2 will change to D2. Let us try that, right? So I am going to drag this to the right side. Now look here. We got 230. How we got 230? Now here you can see that is B2. Now here look, here it is C2. B2 has been changed to C2, right? Then here it is C2 and here it's D2. So C2 has been D2, C2 has been changed to D2. But you can see the row number is same. Here also 2, here also a 2, right? Now what? Now I have already taught you the row absolute cell reference when we are dragging downwards. Now I am going to teach you the row absolute cell reference when you are dragging it to the right side, right? Right side. So let us learn that as well. So how to make a row absolute cell reference? Before the row number, put the dollar mark, right? Then is to, here we have C2. So before the row number, you need to put the dollar symbol, right? So $2, right? So here, once I enter this, right? Wait, sorry. Let me erase this. Right, equal sum. So here, before the row number, I'm going to add the dollar symbol. Then here is to, before the row number, I'm going to add the dollar symbol to make it row absolute cell reference. Then close the bracket and click on enter, you will be getting 140. You will be getting 140. Now I have taught you the logic what will happen when we are dragging downwards. Now what if we drag rightwards? Now once we drag it rightwards, what's supposed to do? Normally, if there is no any cell references, the column letter will change, but the row number remains the same. Now here we have made the row absolute. We have made the row absolute. Even though we may have made the row absolute, or even though we haven't made the row absolute, as because we are moving to the right side, it doesn't going to make any change, right? Because adding the dollar also same, not adding the dollar also same when you are dragging to the right side. Why? Same row you are dragging, so row number anyhow it doesn't change, even though you add the absolute or not add the absolute when it comes to dragging right side. Okay, so what will happen once I drag? Right, you can see here we have dollar $B$2 $C$2, the row number is same. Now here see, here $C$2 $D$2, anyhow the row number is same, but you can notice the column. What has happened to the column letter has been changed. Now here it is $B$2, now $B$2 has been changed to $C$2, and $C$2 has been changed to $D$2. Why? We made only the row absolute. We didn't make the column absolute. So when we are dragging right side, the column is supposed to, yeah, change. So we have learned now the row absolute cell reference. Now let me explain you an example of this row absolute cell reference. So I'm going to erase these things, right? So I hope this is clear, but to get a clear understanding, let us also try one more example under row absolute cell reference, right? So let me erase them quickly. Right, okay. So here what I'm gonna say, right? So I'm going to give some here, let me say the pencil, the quantity of pencils. So, and here the price of a pencil, price of a pencil, and here it's going to be amount. So let me put the amount in rupees, right? Let me put the amount in rupees. So here the quantity 1 2 3 4 5 6, right? These are going to be the quantities of the pencils. So, and the price of a pencil is 10. Price of a pencil is 10. Now if I ask you to find the amount, now most of the students what will directly they do, equal sum. Okay, I will find the amount. So sorry, not sum, equal this, that means A2 into B2, and they will click on enter. Yes, you will get the amount of the first one, right? So first quantity is pencil amount you will get. Then what students will do, they will drag this to the downwards. They will drag this to the downwards. Now here you are getting 0. Why you are getting 0? Right, I will explain the logic. Already I have explained, so I think now you know. So once we are dragging this downwards, what will happen? Once you are dragging this downwards, will the column letter change? No, the same column. The column letter doesn't change, but the row number will shift. The row number will shift from 2 to 3, right? So here you can see that equal A2, here in the formula bar you can see equal A2 into B2. And once you are gone to the next one, you can see the column letter hasn't changed. Now here also A to A and B, here also A and B. But you can see here that is A2 into B2, here A3 into B3. So A3 is this, and you are multiplying it by the B3. In B3, do you have any price of a pencil? No, it's not given. That's why it is 0. If you consider this scenario also, column letter doesn't change. A4 into B4, right? So here A4 is this one 3, right? So here B4 you have nothing. So 3 into B you have nothing. That's why it is 0. Now, as students who have learned row absolute cell reference, need to develop your own logic and develop your own formula for this. Pause the video and try that, right? So I hope now you guys have tried that. Now I'm going to explain you what is the formula, right? Now this one should change now. Now when you are dragging downwards, my dear, when you are dragging downwards, this one need to change. Why? Quantity, no, according to the quantity, what is the amount? Therefore, should we make this absolute? No, we no need to make this absolute. Release it independent, right? Release it independent. But price of a pencil should not change. I have already explained, when you are dragging downwards, this one will come to here, but here we don't have nothing now. So we need to make, in this scenario, we need to make this B2 as row absolute cell reference. So how to do that? Equal the here A2 into what? B dollar 2. We are going to make the row number absolute. This is known as row absolute cell reference. Now one student can ask, why aren't we making the column also absolute? My dear, we are dragging downwards. So when we are dragging downwards, will the column letter change? Column letter doesn't change, no. So what's the point of making it absolute? Even though you make absolute, even though you don't make absolute, the column letter, but column letter doesn't change. When you are now here, this is when you are dragging downwards, what will happen? Will the column letter change? The column letter doesn't change, right? The column letter doesn't change. Therefore, even though you make the column letter absolute, or even though you don't make the column letter absolute, it is going to be the same. So what's the point of making the column letter absolute? No use. Therefore, that's why I only made the row number absolute, right? So now let us enter. So here we will get 10. So now I'm going to drag this downwards. So now you will get the prices. So here 10 amount. So if you are purchasing quantity of pencils, it is 20. If you are purchasing 5 quantity of pencils, it is 50. And if you are purchasing 6 quantity of pencils, one price of a pencil is 10. So 10 into 6 is 60. So I think row absolute cell reference is clear for you people, right? So now we are going to move on to column absolute cell reference. Column absolute cell reference. So be with me until the end of the video to understand the column absolute cell reference as well, right? So this is very important when it comes to the O-level ICT, right? So not only for the O-level ICT, even when you are going to work, right? Nowadays, MS Excel is used everywhere. Therefore, it is very important. Column absolute cell reference. So let me take the examples of the previous examples. So let me put some two names and let me give two subjects marks, so ICT and commerce, right? And what I'm gonna do, let me do the total marks here. Then let me put two names here, Rahul and Habinesh, right? So I'm going to take the two names for the convenient. And for the ICT marks, let me enter here 50 and here 40. And here commerce marks is going to be 90 and 80, right? Now, if I ask to find the sum, what will you do? Equal sum total. So B2 is to C2. B2 is to C2, 140. Now, if we are dragging this downwards, now you must see, if we are dragging this downwards, will the column letter change? Column letter doesn't change. Why? It is in the same column now. But the row number will change from D2 is to D3. So let me show that. So here you have equal sum B2 is to C2. Here the row number has been changed to 3, but the column data is same. So B3 is to C3. We have already understood this logic, right? But what if we are dragging this to the right side? If we are dragging this to the right side, will the column letter change? Yes, column letter will change. Now here we have B2 is to C2, B2 will change to C2 and C2 will change to D2. But will the row number change? Row number doesn't change, right? So that's the logic. Here it is. If I drag, what will happen to the right side? It is 230. You can see here we have B2. Here it's going to be C2. B2 has been changed to C2. And here it is C2. And here it has changed to D2. That means 90 plus 140 is going to give you 230. 230. Now we are going to study the column absolute cell reference. That means even though we shift it here, if we shift this here with column absolute cell reference, what will happen? Let us try the logic. Right. How to make column absolute cell reference? We know here equal B2. So if we are making a column absolute cell reference, before the column letter, I should put the dollar symbol. So column letter is B. Before that, I am putting the dollar symbol, dollar $B2. Dollar $B2 is to, now here we have C2. So before the column letter C, put the dollar symbol, that is dollar $C2, right? So then what you are going to do, right? You can click on enter. You can click on enter. Right. Now here you are getting, sorry. Okay, give me a second. Right. Here I'm going to say equal sum. So here we are going to make this column absolute cell reference. So before the column letter B, put the dollar symbol, and is to before the column letter C, put the dollar symbol to make this column absolute cell reference. Then click on enter, right? So here you can see 50 plus 90 is going to give you 140. Now, if I drag this downwards, nicely listen, if I drag this downwards, will the column letter change? No, the column letter doesn't change because it is in the same column. We are dragging in the same column. The D column itself only we are dragging downwards. So the column letter doesn't change, right? What will happen to the row number? Row number will change, right? Row number will change because we haven't made the row absolute in this scenario. This is column absolute cell reference. So here what will happen? Now B will be B itself. So here what will happen? Now imagine what will be the answer here. Now here B will be B itself, C will be C itself, but B2 will change to B3 because the row number changes, and C2 will change to C3. That means we will be getting the addition of 40 plus 80. So let me drag this and see whether I am getting. Yes, 40 plus 80, how much? 120. I am getting that. I am getting that. We are done. Now I am asking a question, dear students. Answer this in a logical manner. If I am dragging this to the right side, what's the logic? If I drag this to the right side, the column letter changes. The column letter changes, but the row number is going to be constant. Why? We are dragging to the right side in the same column, no dear. So the row number is the same, but the column letter is going to change. So here we have is going to change if we have not made any absolute, right? We have not made any absolute cell reference, the column data is going to change. But in this scenario, we have made the column absolute. In this scenario, we have made the column absolute. So if I drag this to this side, here also I will get 140 only. Why? As because I am dragging, the column letter doesn't change. Why it doesn't change here? I have made the column absolute. So if I have made the column absolute, the column letter doesn't change. Anyhow, the row number doesn't change when we are moving it in the same row. Anyhow, the row number doesn't change when we are moving it in the same row. That's why the logic, right? So here was 140, here was 140, because we have made the column letter absolute. So even though you move it to the right side, if we have not applied any references, then it will change. But here we have made the column absolute cell reference, so it doesn't change, right? Anyhow, the row number doesn't change because we are moving it to the right side in the same row. I think it is more than clear. To be more clear on that, let us try an example, right? Let us try an example. So what I'm going to do, right? What I'm going to do, so let me erase these things first and foremost. And let me, we are going to actually, now you guys are interested in cricket matches, right? So at the end of each over, to calculate the total runs. So at the first over, what is the total runs? At the second over, what is the total runs? At the third over, what is the total runs? At the fifth over, what is the total runs? And final over, what is the total runs? So let us see how to calculate that using column absolute cell reference. Using column absolute cell reference. So let me say here a number of overs, and let me say 1, 2, 3, 4, uh, 5, 6, and 7. Enough, no? So 6 and 7. So here, let me unbold these things, right? Right, okay. Then number of hours we are done. Let me say runs per hour. Runs per hour. What is the runs per hour? Right. Runs per hour. And let me say here, for the first hour, they have scored 13 runs. For the second hour, they have scored 14 runs. Fifth, sorry, first over 13 runs, second over 14 runs, third over 10 runs, fourth over 7 runs, fifth over 15 runs, sixth over 11 runs, right? Let us forget about the seventh over. Let us imagine 6 over match, or we'll imagine 6 over only they are playing, after that all out or something, right? Here, let me say the total, and I'm going to use the column absolute cell reference for this scenario, right? For this example, I'm going to use the column absolute cell reference. So what I'm going to say here, equals sum. I'm going to make now number of overs, right? So now here, this number of overs, what should we do? We need to make this absolute. That means this b column we need to make absolute. So let me say dollar b2 is to b2. Now here, this runs per hour. I'm going to drag this to the right side now. So once I drag this to the right side, what will happen? I have taught you the logic. Once I drag it to the right side, the row number will remain the same, but the column letter changes. So here, if I drag this to here in this C4, what will happen? B2 will change to C2, but $B2, even though if we haven't made any cell references, then B2 will change to C2, but because we have made the column absolute cell reference, $B2 will be as $B2 only. Correct? No, then only no, we can find the total runs at the second over. So I think you understand the logic. So here we will get 13. And if I drag this to the right side, what will happen? Here you can see the formula in the formula bar, right? Wait, sorry. Right. Equals sum, let me say, $B2, right? $B2 is to B2, cross bracket, enter. So 13, here it's going to be 27. Now how here we got 27? Let me copy this and let me simply paste it here, right? Sorry. Right. Now here you can see, here we had what? Equal sum $B2 is to B2. Now here we have equal sum $B2 is B2 only. Even though we are dragging it to the right side, my dear, the column letter doesn't change because we have made the column absolute cell reference. So it doesn't change, but you can see that what? Here it was B2. Here it was in the formula bar I'm showing B2, but here it has been changed to C2 because here we haven't made any column absolute cell reference. So correct now. So just count and see 13 plus 14. You will be getting 27. So at the end of the second hour, we are getting 27. Then let us see at the end of the third hour. At the end of the third hour, you are getting 37. So you can see $B2 is to D2. That means what? From 13 is to D2 in the sense is 10, right? So 13 is to $B2. So where is that? So 13 here, right? So this spot, that means 13 plus 14 plus 10. What's the marks? 37. Just add and see, you will be getting 37. So correct, right? So even though we drag 27 to this side, right side, the column letter doesn't change because we have made, that means the $B2, this one doesn't change because we have made it absolute, but this one will change from C2 to D2 because we haven't made that absolute, because then only we can find the total marks at the end of the third over 37. So 13, you can see, equals sum $B2 B2 means this one, right? Equal sum $B2 is to D2. That means 13 plus 14 plus 10, which is going to give you 37. So like that, you can drag up to the end, and you can find at the last, you can see that equal sum $B2 is to G2. That means from 13 to 11, right? That means 13 plus 14 plus 10 plus 7 plus 15 plus 11 is going to give you 70. So we have found at the last sixth over, the total marks scored is 70 marks, right? 70 runs, right? Total runs scored is 70 runs. So we are done with the column absolute cell reference as well. We are done with the row absolute cell reference, column absolute cell reference. The final one to be done, stay with me, row and column absolute cell reference. So once we are done, that's all right. So let me erase these things. So let me take the small example for the row and column absolute cell reference, right? So let me enter two names that we have come across, and let me give ICT marks, and let me give commerce marks, and let me give the total marks of these two subjects. So let me give the name of Rahul, Abhinesh, and what I'm gonna do here, let me unboard these, and ICT marks, let us take the same marks here, 50 and here 40, and let me say the commerce marks as here 90 and here 80, and let me give the total. Now here let me say equal sum, we haven't made any cell references, equal sum B2 is to C2. So here you'll be getting 140 as the marks, right? So if I drag this downwards, you guys know now more than me. We are dragging it downwards, so the column letter is the same, column letter doesn't change, but the row number shifts from 2 to 3. So as because of that, it will be adding 40 plus 80, which gives you 120. When I drag it to the right side, you guys know now the row number doesn't change, but the column letter changes, right? So it's going to be, now here it was equal sum B2 is to C2. Now the row number doesn't change, but the B2 will change to C2. You can see here B2 has changed to C2, and C2 will change to D2. That means 90 plus 140 is going to give you 90 plus 140 is going to give you 230. Now, what is this row absolute cell reference? Sorry, row and column absolute cell reference. So I will say what is that. Let us say equal sum. That means the row also doesn't change, the column also doesn't change. Okay, that only row and column absolute cell reference. So equal sum. So here, front of the column letter also I'm putting the dollar symbol, and front of the row number also I'm putting the dollar symbol, right? So this is row and column absolute cell reference. So is to here I'm going to say dollar $C. So here column absolute cell reference, and also here before the row numbers I am putting, so column and row absolute cell reference, and I'm going to click on enter. It's going to be 140. Now if I drag it downwards, what is supposed to do? The column letter will remain the same, but the row number will change. Row number will change here, but in this scenario, will the row number change? No, the row number doesn't change. Why the row number doesn't change? Because we have made the column and row absolute cell reference, right? Now here also you will be getting 140. Now I am going to drag it to the right side. So if I am dragging to the right side, what will happen? The column letter will change, but the row number will remain the same. Row number will remain the same. So what will happen? Here we have made both the column and row absolute cell reference, right? So as because we have done that, row number, of course, even you have made absolute or not absolute in when you are moving to the right side, anyhow it won't change. But here, as because we are moving to the right side, what will happen here? Yeah, the column is supposed to change, but column data is supposed to change, but as because we have applied the column and row absolute cell reference, it doesn't change. It's going to be 140 itself. So we are done with the basic of MS Excel. Then we are done with row absolute cell reference, column absolute cell reference, and row and column absolute cell reference. So I think it's clear.